a person is doing some Masonic traveling, on your priority list, you should visit the Bristol work in England. And in my opinion, more importantly, you should visit this specific New Orleans work. It's not the only New Orleans work, but the only place where you can visit this apprentice degree is in New Orleans.
I'd like to see that. That would be fun.
You might even like to put on a demonstration of it in Portland, and then you could say, did the audience hear what Brother Jeff said? What did you say? Did you say you'd like to see it?
Yeah, I would love to see it. I think that would be great. Yeah.
And my suggestion, maybe you'd like for it to be available not only in New Orleans in English, but also in Portland in English. Of course, we would have to have it approved by Grand Law. But they did approve it in New Orleans. It has been operated in New Orleans. I would like to call it the Andrew Hammer degree. He would not call it this. He calls it the right écossais. Now, please do not translate that. Just call right écossais. Because if you translated it, then you will overlook the fact that it's got other occurrences in other contexts, but it's the same degree. Now, I'd like to start out by giving you a quotation from Shakespeare.
Okay.
I'm only talking about this one degree. I'm not talking about the second and third degree that sometimes is associated with it. But this degree is based on, believe it or not, an assumption or an observation based by William Shakespeare. This is a quotation from Shakespeare's Merry Wives of Windsor, quoted in my book. Shakespeare says, "There is divinity in odd numbers." Underline the word odd. There is divinity in odd numbers, either in nativity, chance, or death. That's from the Merry Wives of Windsor. So this degree that we're talking about is based on a assumption, and maybe it's more than an assumption, that our odd numbers are extremely important. Now, I have a master database of 12,000 entries. Some of them are entries descriptive of articles I've written. Some are descriptive of other articles that I felt were important. And I have done searches on odd numbers. And I have, perhaps not surprisingly, discovered odd numbers come up more frequently in Masonry than even numbers, particularly numbers 3 and 7. So this degree, I call it the Hammer degree, or you could call it the New Orleans degree. Call it what you will.
No.
Or remember, it can be in Scandinavia also. Whatever you want to call it, it is based specifically on an odd number, which is 3. So almost anything that happens in this degree is based on the number 3. But it goes deeper than that. That's just the beginning of it. I'm looking up a reference here, assuming I've got it in here. Okay. There are some interesting sources that are surprisingly relevant to Masonry. Shakespeare's quotation, by some coincidence, seems to be relevant. There's another one that's maybe more surprising. There is a book by Bernard Roger, written in France. This is quite recent. It's dated 2013. Strange name. It's called The Initiatory Path in Fairy Tales. You would not expect, you got an expression on your face like,
Yeah.
had you heard this before?
No,
You're just surprised.
Yeah, I'm just surprised. Fairy tales. Yeah.
Yeah, you would expect this to be a book for grade school teachers. It's on fairy tales. Surprisingly, there's an amazingly large number of references to masonry in there.
I can believe it, actually, because fairy tales traditionally teach us moral values, like Beowulf.
That's what it
and
comes down
courage
to. And he calls it the initiatory path. So I believe it's Roger, this author that I mentioned, that makes an observation. Who is in this world? Who is the person who most frequently does initiations? Who is the person who did your first initiation?
Are you talking about the role or the person itself?
The person itself.
Yeah.
You know this person very well, I'm quite sure. Anyway,
Okay.
you have to think about this. This author says, and it's quite true, the first person who made any initiation for you or for anyone is your mother. She is the first person that brought you out into the real world. And to me, that was an amazing discovery to come across that. That's in a fairly recent book, and it actually relates to this apprentice degree, which I'll explain. This apprentice degree, and those of you who have a name for the degree, that's all right. I'm not going to give the name for it because it exists in various contexts. But some of you will recognize it and you'll say, yes, that's the degree that I'm thinking of. This degree begins with the candidate in a prenatal condition. Some authors say that the candidate begins in its mother's womb.